All right, we're live. Flipping the cameras on. We got a back screen there. I see that. Slow to get things going this morning. Good morning. I see you on there, Mavis. Good. Good seeing you. I don't have a host this morning. It's just myself at the moment, but I bet somebody out there would be interested in giving a hand and helping me keep track of the chat while we're doing the live show. So if anybody wants to jump in on that, welcome, Cornelia. I see you there. You just popped up on my live stream, on my live chat feed there. Welcome on board. Good to have you here. I'm turning on my screen monitor there so I can keep track of my cameras. All right, we got Raymond, we got Leanne. Good to see the familiar names. Welcome, everybody. It's always a bright spot in my morning to see the familiar names pop up on the chat. All right, we got Tyler. Tyler, welcome on board, my friend. Okay, with the familiar names on there, I'm going to repeat what I said a moment ago. I don't have a host this morning. I don't have anybody to help me do the chat, so I'm reading it myself, which is no urgent matter. You know, I just think it's easier to include everybody if I have somebody else looking at the chat while I'm painting. I was turning on my earpiece so that I can hear. Okay, so I've got an empty video called Just Waiting for Someone to Jump on Board. See over here, if I click this little screen here, Google is asking me right now, hey, is anybody else going to join this call, or are we just doing a call with you and that's all? I'm going to click stay in the call. There we go. So if anybody wants to come help me out, you can join this video call. Just send your email to share@muraljoe.com if you want to be my host this morning. Here's the inbox right now. I was looking at Susan's work. Just thought I would share a couple of recent paintings. Susan says a lot of atmospheric, windy stuff, wintry stuff from life in a cold climate. I want to see this. Okay, so I'm going to get your email. If I go back to the inbox here, I'm going to get your email here if you're interested in helping me read the chat this morning, helping me host. Otherwise, no problem. I'm clicking through Susan's paintings. We're going to check those out. I don't have a plan for what to do this morning, so if anybody has any ideas that you really want to see, I always enjoy thoughtful, hard questions, difficult ones, things that don't have a million answers already. Actually, if it has a million answers, we probably need a clear one. Anyway, I digress. Here's Susan's, looks like watercolor. That looks pretty awesome. Great work, Susan. Let me zoom in a little bit. Let's get a larger view of that. Yeah, that's really good. Hang on a second. I'm going to close a few tabs on my computer here. Let's close that one. We don't need it. We got some code questions to the AI. We don't need that. We got the color app. That might be handy later. Hang on a minute. We got my computer screen acting up. There we go. Man, I lost my cursor. My screen has no cursor on it, so I don't know where my mouse is clicking. Give me a second. Give me a second to get that back. Come on. We're just gonna use the touch screen, I guess. Hey, Mavis says she can help host. Everyone can see the email there. All right. Let's look at what Mark's got. Okay, Mavis, I'm going to include you in this, except here's the problem. I don't know if I can do it all with my hands. My mouse is gone. It's gone. It just disappeared. All right. Let's invite Mavis onto the call. Give me a second here. Mavis. Let's see if we've got your email saved. Nope, we don't have it saved. Okay, thank you very much, Mavis, for helping. Here's the problem. I'm going to close this computer and open it again because I need the cursor to show up on the screen so I can see what I'm clicking on. It's the little things that kill. Hey, here's an idea. While I'm waiting for my computer to work right, I want to show you an idea I had. I thought it'd be cool to demonstrate. Join now. Camera is starting. Join now. All right. All right, now it's working. Hang on, give me a second. I got to do one thing at a time here. We'll get it going. Let's add people. Let's go over here. And let me get your email, Mavis, so that I can send you a link. And then we're going to get you on board the live stream here. Okay. Let's go over here. I'm sending it. The moment, send email. All right. Let me know if you got that email. You'll be on board in no time. We got things working here. I want to show you a project I was working on. Look at this. Look at this one. So we got Ben out on the road. He's enjoying a nice vacation. My brother, who normally would be helping. Okay, this is for a nephew. What do you call the son of my niece? Would that be like a second nephew, great nephew? I don't know what you call that. I don't know what you call that family member. But my niece, her little boy, his name is Casey Allen. They're big Dallas Cowboys fans. They're real big fans. And so I've been working on this plaque. See, I did one for all of the kids. And so, you know, they're all themed out. They're all themed out. Like one has a Minnie Mouse theme, another one has sunflower theme. This one is Dallas Cowboys, you know. And we were joking around. Well, gosh, I hope he ends up being a Dallas Cowboys fan. Not that we're trying to control anyone's fate here. But I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I showed you my strategy for doing wood grain? See, I'm having some fun doing multicolored wood grain on this. And it's a simple technique. It's not complicated. I thought we might get into a little bit of a study on what makes wood grain look the way it does, what colors might work well. And, you know, we could have a little bit of fun with that. But that's just a demonstration idea. We don't have to hog up the whole live stream with that. Hang on a second. Let's see. I'm looking over at my computer here to see if we've got anything happening on the Google Meet call. Let's go over here and see if this is working. Let's see. All muted. Waiting to be admitted. Admit. All right. Now we got Mavis on board. Mavis, do I got your audio? Okay. It's getting like got a little bit louder. It got a little bit louder just now. It's very quiet on my end. That's probably echo is probably because your speakers are going into your microphone. Would it mess you up if you muted the machine that has your microphone on it? See if you get, I'll let you know when I hear your audio. Okay, for now, just take your time because there's no urgency. Take your time. But right now I don't have audio, but there's no rush. I'll keep working on this. Mavis is going to be working on getting some audio. I got everything turned on my end, and we'll get you on board as fast as you're able there. All right, big thanks to Mavis for jumping in. Last minute, we had nobody. Okay. So look, I want to show you this technique. It's pretty fun. I'm going to take this down. We got our blank practice board. And we'll keep an eye on what else is going on out there as well. So if you're doing this technique, I do hear you very quietly. Yeah. Give me a sec. Okay, wait, hold on. We'll get this worked out. Folks, I'm just going to go black screen. The stream is still continuing. I'm just going to do black screen for a minute to get Mavis connected so we're not killing time. So just consider it a commercial break. We're just taking a commercial break. Okay. We're back. Sorry, technical stuff. Us, we artists take a moment to get the technical stuff figured out, meaning myself. Okay, we got Mavis on board. Mavis, thank you very much. Give us a hello and we'll get going. We'll get going here.
Hello, Joe. The echo is back.
Oh no. Well, sometimes just turning the volume down can kill that, you know. Hopefully we can get that to go away. At least I got volume on my end. Sorry about that. Okay, well, take your time. Take your time, do what you got to do. All right, so I'm going to go down here and I'm going to flip to this camera. We're going to get some colors in order. So I want to show you how I do this wood grain technique. Do let me know if you have other ideas, things we can fill our time with. this morning. So here's the idea. You know, I always talk about a glow effect, a translucent glow effect. That actually comes in really handy when you're doing something like wood grain. So in my colors, you can see that I have the ability to shift, all the way from a white to a purple blue. I have purple blue colors, a black, I have an orange, and I'll boost up these colors a little bit. I'm running low. And this is how I did that. You know, that wood grain on that sign was done with these colors. So I'm going to put orange and yellow in here. Keep it simple. You know, simple, I don't have a lot of pigments in my mix. You know, I'm making my orange a little more on the yellow side. If I go too yellow, it'll turn greenish when it hits a black. Okay, then I'm going to make sure I have plenty of black. So I have some blue added to this black. Maybe we should just do a separate color here. Let's do a brown. Let's do something that looks more like normal wood. Let's go black and orange. Right here. Here's my black, and we'll be able to shift this from a more brownish color to, sorry, I'm getting the dry paint off of that. More toward yellow as it gets brighter, and that ends up looking really nice for wood tone. And so what I've noticed is when you focus on the details of the wood, sometimes you can miss how the color creates the perception. You know, like if we just get the colors to look good, then it's amazing how much that accomplishes, at least to me. Okay, here's a dark brown. I'm trying to talk while I mix colors. Man, my brain is not firing on all cylinders this morning. I mean, okay, we got a dark brown, and you can see that this dark brown, and I've got a blackish color in there. Why don't we just put a little more black in there, because that's starting to dry. We'll put some of that in there just in case we need more. Let me turn on here. All right, we got Mavis working on audio. I've got you turned on. You're piped into the live stream now.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear, crystal clear.
Great.
Yeah.
I still can't find the chat. It says nobody else is on but you and I. You and me.
Leanne said well, that might be the video call. That might be the video call that's saying it's just me and you, rather than the YouTube chat.
Okay, so I had the YouTube open before the YouTube chat, you know, your actual what I was looking at before, and that's what was causing the echo. So I closed that down, but I could open that back up and just
if you open it and mute it. I don't know if it's possible to open it and mute it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Then that might help. Well, I'm telling you, there's so many moving parts to a video live stream. It's not simple. Yeah, you know, I've got this studio set up where I do the same thing every morning. You know, as long as I just keep doing the same thing, it's going to work out. Thanks for helping on a moment's notice, Mavis.
Sure, I don't know how much help this is going to be.
Oh yeah, it's helping. You know, anybody else. This is a small group we've got here, and anybody else that wants to do this in the future, you know, this is like you know what you're getting into.
Right.
This is it. This is how we do it. We're figuring it out. Okay, I want to paint some wood here. Just let me know when you're ready. You work on that and let me know when you're ready, and I'll mute you until you give me the cue to put you back in. Okay, wood tone. We got wood tone right here, and so wood is like this. It helps to understand like if we made a tree. Okay, I'm gonna make a tree here for a demo. All right. To really fully understand. Well, I don't want to belittle anyone's understanding. This is my method of explaining what I'm thinking. Okay, so I'm going to make a branch coming off of this tree. Is it not working? Oh, I got it. Not head on. All right. Yeah, all right. Well, let me see if I can get a better angle. All right, that's what I got you here for, to be my extra set of eyes. Let's get my cameras set up here. Okay. We'll get it a little more square. All right, and we'll zoom in. I've got kind of a square canvas today. It's a practice board. All right, there, I think that's good. Okay, so I'm just making a tree right here. Well, there's like a 5-second, 10-second delay on it. So no. You know what's happening is you're looking at the video call. We got two different things. I'm like, I think the camera's yeah. That's good. Okay. That's our video call. Here, this is me and Mavis are on a video call and she's multitasking. You know, this gets confusing. We got more than one thing going on here. Okay. Thank you, Mavis. You're a good sport. You are a very good sport.
Patient. I'm with you.
Okay. I muted you again. So if you got to thumb through some stuff, that's fine. All right. So I'm going to do some rings to represent a branch coming off. So trees, we all know how we see rings when we cut a tree. Like if we did a slice of the trunk here, we'd have rings inside of rings like this. And so when a branch grows, those rings, you know, they warp out around the branch. So you'll have an inner ring essentially that is protruding out, and then these rings are bending out with it. So let me just show you. If I were to do this, smaller and smaller rings go up. Okay, I'm going to go. I think seeing is easier than explaining. I over explain a lot of the time instead of just demonstrate. So I'm just going to try to draw a 3D, you know, kind of like drawing a 3D model of something. So just imagine we've got our branch coming off of the tree like this. Okay, this isn't literally the way the rings go, you know, but it's just to show that 3D model. And so as it cuts through those outer rings, you get these. And so then with wood grain, the reason you get the shapes that you do is because it's, I don't even know if that's helpful, but when you're doing, so now we're going to switch from trying to do the structure of a tree, and we're going to look at a sliced view of what the wood grain does. So when you have a board, it just cuts through those layers and you get bands that are the layers, you know, just like wrapped around a cylinder. And then they'll start to bend like this. Okay, so let's make a long one like this. Let's make a long one in here that's getting more. Now we're actually trying to simulate a sliced piece of wood. Okay, so these are going to get straighter. And the reason they gradually, as you move outward or inward a layer of wood, they gradually conform to some shape with some obscurity, you know, maybe I'll zigzag it a little bit. Okay, now these get more and more straight. Okay, the reason for that is because a branch was here, and that branch was making all of these straight layers make a tunnel like this, you know, a tunnel, a figure of speech, you know, going out like this. Well, this layer comes through it. So the very middle one ends up being the branch that comes out from the tree, and it's pushing through the other layer. So that's why you get these rings, and that's why they're in these long oval shapes, because you're taking a circle and usually cutting it at some angle that, you know, like if we were to cut this this whole tree. So now we're back to the tree model like this. If we were to slice this tree instead of straight across the middle, what if we sliced it like this? What if we sliced that tree that way? We'd have an oval that was real stretched out like this. For me, it helps to understand what's going on with the shapes and the movement. You know, I'm not trying to make the subject of wood grain unfun for anybody here. Just this is what helps me to remember. Okay, so if I were to slice this tree at an angle like this, well, then I get this long oval shape. And so that's what happens all over sliced boards, is you tend to get stretched out shapes because we're not just doing, you know, 90-degree slices on every knot hole and branch. So you get shapes like this, and they constantly conform. So this is the workflow, is this kind of shapes. All right, now because it's gradually bending this way, you know, the wood is bending out this way. What happens is this distance starts to close. So to make it look even more natural, as we get toward this middle knot hole, we'll put the rings closer and closer together. And you'll see when I start building this, you'll see what a good difference it makes to have this understanding. That really helps. Just having this shape at a glance is more powerful than any little tiny details. Okay, so now I get closer and closer together. Just let me know if you need something for the setup there. Maybe this, if I can help at all. Okay, we're doing this. We're going to go here, closer, like this. Here we go. Okay, so I got closer and closer together to make like a knot hole. And then after I get my shapes in place while the paint is still wet, I'll just drag it across that wet paint to make these streaks in it. And this can be done at a slow pace. You know, you can do little bits at a time. So now with that understanding, I'm going to redo and use colors that I actually think might look good. So we want to do just like wood planks. I think it's a cool trick in murals. You can make a nice looking fence, side of a barn. Sometimes you're working real big and you want wood to look natural. So I thought, heck, you know, I've been asked about this enough times, how to do these kind of textures. It might be handy to do a demo. So now we'll start over. We'll do a plank down here. Let's start with a light colored base. It helps to have colors pre-mixed, and I'll add plenty of water. It actually looks real nice when it pulls off. When you put this dark color or whatever your grain color is, when you put that over the top, you'll see what I mean by pulls off some of the paint. So I'm going to put a base color, and my base color is going to be more toward yellow. Notice this is not a yellow. More toward yellow than the dark color is a good way to create the translucent effect that wood has. It doesn't have to happen, but it's
okay,
a good
Joe,
it's a good look.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
And I am on now. I am now on
Yep.
chat.
You're
Signed
streamed
into a
in.
different
Okay.
window. Yeah, no echo.
You're doing it. Okay, we got it squared away.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Nice work, Mavis. Nice work. That was on a moment's. That was spur of the moment. Great job with that. Okay.
I'm going to write an owner's manual to go with this.
Right. You know, I have a checklist. I have a troubleshoot list, and because when you're under pressure and things aren't going right, you blank out. At least me, I blank out everything that I was troubleshooting before. It all leaves my memory because I'm feeling stressed. Well, so you make a list and then you just go down the list. One of the items on my lists is turn the volume up and down again because one time I did that and it fixed everything. It was like just a programming glitch. And it's like, if that's just a list item, it's so much easier. You know, checklists are awesome for that. Anyway, I'm off subject. We're painting some wood here. All right, thanks for helping.
You bet.
Okay, we're gonna put some grain on this now. So I've got a layer of paint that's got enough water in it. It's not gonna dry super quickly. it's a little bit more, it's a little bit yellower than this layer. Now this can just be painted on, you know, I can just take a brush and I keep the brush at this same orientation, you know, I don't rotate it. So it's going to do a thin line this way, fat line this way. And then I'm going to go here, make whatever shape of like an obscured stretched oval that I want to. I think a lot of us have seen those wood grain tools that, you know, they make rings and you pull them along the surface and it stretches them. Those are great tools. They're really cool. But you can do this with a brush as well. You choose which one is right for the job. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. So I think it's fun to be able to just do this with a brush. All right, now I'm going to pull this gently this direction and then discard the paint out of my brush. This is a key component, is the discarding of that paint, because it picks up a lot. And when it, if you keep going over this area without discarding the paint, then it all runs together. But if you keep discarding the paint, then you can get good separation. Now I'm going to go the other way, like that. See that nice grain it leaves? So this difference, now you can see there's a little nuance to this because that base coat was more watered down. If you look real close at these lines, this is what I meant by pulling off. You can see areas where the application of the dark grain color softened and then pulled off when I did this stage of streaking across, and it leaves these stripes here of different color, and that can be a nice looking simulation of the complexity of rings. It gives you a different color, can make it look more 3D, more natural. It's a nuance. It's not super important, but I like using the more watery layer because of that. Okay, so then I can, and you can use all kinds of colors for this. Let's do another couple rings in here. So now I'm going to start getting closer together in here. So let's go like this. Maybe we'll make this ring like this. And it looks like I need a little bit more of my initial color applied. I'm discarding paint on here. Discard that. Now the paint that I put down first has dried, so that's not going to let me pull that any further. So if you need to reapply, it's pretty simple. You just put the paint down. You don't fall in love with the stuff that's there because you got to paint over some of it to keep going. But that is the strength of doing it with a brush. There's pros and cons. If you use a graining tool, it's very hard to come back and touch up what you've done. If you use a brush, you get this 1, 2, 3 system going, and you can paint right over the top of anything that you've painted much more easily. Okay, now I'm going to do another ring in here. Now, when I get to these middle rings, I might just do a broad stroke with the brush to get close together rings like this. And real close together, because this is like that. This is like the branch coming out where it's got much tighter, smaller layers than the rest of the tree. So we just put a bunch of close together rings, and then maybe we just do short, very short strokes this time, not real long, because these are tiny layers, not big ones. Just a very gentle short stroke. Then I can go back to my lighter color down here. And again, you know, one of the advantages of using the brush instead of a graining tool is being able to come back and detail it. Here, let's put more of these in there. I'm just putting the light color in between, putting some rings. So these are, bottom line is these are closer together and they're not stretched out as much. So we can get a more natural look that way. Let's go like this. Okay, I kind of lost my details when I did that. Let's try again. We're doing it with the brush, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, we got Round Brush Steve on board here.
Okay, nice. Good to have you, my friend. Round Brush Steve, I put it in the newsletter. He said, sent me a link to buymeacoffee.com. And that I'd consider it similar to a tip jar. You know, it allows people who want to, like Round Brush was saying, I'm trying to give you my money and you're not letting me. So with respect, I had to say, okay, I'll sign up. So I signed up. I got an account. If you go to buymeacoffee.com, thanks to Round Brush Steve, who gave me a kick in the pants to get it going. I have a place where you can donate if you choose to do that. But the last thing I want to do is make it feel like this is a fundraiser. So please keep that context in mind. I don't expect any donations ever. All right. So we got some.
Okay, we have a question from Cora Neal. How can I get my paintbrushes to stop losing hairs? How can you get them off of a painting without wrecking it? Tweezers don't work.
Man, that is a good mechanical question. Okay, I'm going to answer that one. Okay, I really appreciate that. That's a good one. If other people might have good tricks to this, but I have these cheap brushes that do that a lot. Boy, what would be great is if I actually had hair to get stuck in the painting. So let's see if we can accomplish that. Let's see if we got some kind of hair that can get stuck in the painting. Okay, so here at the edge of my wood grain, I'm just going to do, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to get some work on here, and then I'm going to get a hair stuck, and then I'm going to show you. I do have a very specific strategy for that, and I want to show it to you. Give me time to do a good job of answering that. Okay, so here at the edge, I can do very straight layers here in my wood grain pattern. Now I'm going to gradually start bending them. My hands shake, so I'm using two hands to steady my hand as I work my way across here. I'm going to go like this. So you get the point, right? I mean, not a whole lot more has to be demonstrated about this particular technique. You do the base, you do the stripes, and then you do the drag. And you just remember that if you discard your brush, you get better graining response from it. It works better for that. And so we're going to put my layers in place here. Let's put this one right here. I got some white paint still on there. Okay, let me see if I got let's say you've got hair stuck in it. Let's see. Let's find something that's here. Give me a second. Yeah, in my studio. Because this is a very good question and a very frustrating thing that happens. I got all kinds of cheap brushes that'll leave hairs.
Uh-oh.
I hate that. You know, it's a repeating problem.
It usually means spilt coffee in a broken cup for me.
No, that was just a big old file drawer. That's all it was. I was just opening a big noisy file drawer. Okay, let's manually create this problem. We're gonna take a hair. We're gonna stick it to the painting, and I'm gonna zoom in here in a minute. We're gonna create this problem. We're painting a hair to our picture right here. Okay, we've got that. Then we've got colors that we want to keep on there, like this. Okay, it's like, okay, I like my painting, but I don't like that big hair that's across the middle. This is the problem that we're going to run into right here. All right, this is how you get that out. Notice, side note, notice that I don't need a bunch of details for these colors to look like wood. It's the combination of, it's that translucent gradient effect, where if I just have a color that's shifted toward yellow and more colorful usually, then it creates that translucent texture or color combination that you see in wood. And so that is what I'm saying is more powerful than the details that you put in your wood grain pattern. There, so you can just do it all with the paintbrush like this. And that's how I did that whole thing. I just did board after board with this method. It's not the most beautiful thing I ever did. This one, maybe we'll try some others. Okay, so we got this brush. Watch this. Here's the trick. Here's what you do to get that out. Okay, we're going to zoom in like this. Okay.
I think that looks really good, Joe, especially when you pull it in like that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's good. Okay, so you've got a big brush. Let's say you've got a big brush, and I'm getting a big brush here. This is not the one that left the hair, but it could be. Okay, so you can use the brush itself as the hair removal tool. Here's what you do. You get one long bristle, you scoop under this one, and you pull it off like that. That is the best hair removal tool that I found, is just putting a hair under the hair. So when you try to get at it with tweezers or something, okay, here, I'm going to show you that again. We got a hair stuck on the painting, right? It's annoying. You can't get it with your finger without destroying your painting. You need minimal contact. So you just get the brush, you scoop one little bristle under that hair.
So this is for wet paint?
Yeah,
this for dry?
This is dry. With dry, you just got to pick it out however you can, you know. Okay, like that. That's the best way to get it out, is just scoop it off of there. Not always a super clean, but the best method that I've come across in all my years. If somebody has another method, do share, but that's the one that works best for me. Okay, so let's move a little quicker. Now we're gonna make some horizontal slats in ours. I don't know what you call them, boards. So pure black is a great way to make a deep shadow. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see. I got the camera way in there. Okay. So this is kind of fun. If you need to make something look like wood, you actually don't even need that graining technique. It's just fun to be able to. But here's where the believability, I think, really is accomplished. Dark shadow, a gradient coupled with high contrast is like the magic recipe for three-dimensional work. Gradients and contrast. So we're going to make a gradient coming out of this shadow. So I've got my orange, I've got my dark brown right here. Just these are my wood colors. And I'm going to bring it right up into this black I just put on in a couple strokes right across that same edge. Now I'm not going to go back and forth on that. I need to just go one direction and leave it there. So now I'm going to go a little higher to pull this brown up into the black. So you see, softening that line, this is where the magic happens. The softness of that line makes this a three-dimensional shadow instead of just the black line. It's 2D if it's just a sharp edge, because there's something about gradients that gives us information to interpret. There's no information to interpret like the angle, the depth, how much change is happening. If it's just a sharp line, it's hard to differentiate it from any other object layered on top of another object.
So we have a comment from Raluca Christina.
Raluca, okay, cool. Good to have you again.
Looks beautiful from close. We can see like the wood grain in different colors.
Okay, nice. Good. Glad to hear that. So you can see I don't need a lot of artistic grain in here to make it look like wood. That's just extra. So this is the part that's worth getting dialed in before you even mess with the details of graining, because you don't want to get bogged down with technical manipulation of shapes and patterns when you don't even have you know, like the base to make it look like a 3D object. You know, it's like it feels like misplaced priority to me. You know, like why bother? So I'm going to put the dark brown colors going right up to that black. Now see, it can be a very thin stripe, but it's because that edge has been softened by a couple strokes of my brush that it looks like a deep shadow, and it has so much color. So I didn't go to that black with my light neutralized colors that have white. I went to it with my primary mix. Well, primary as in it has black, orange. It doesn't have, primary is the wrong word. It's not already lightened. So now I'm going to take my light colors into it, and I'm just making my base color, white and orange. I do it up here near that gradient, and then I bring it down into the darker colors, but not too far. Not too far. That might be too far right there. That was too far. So now you can see it makes a sharp edge that I did not mean to do. That was just losing control of my brush. But sometimes that works in your favor. Sometimes it actually creates some texture. You know, there is such thing as happy accidents. There is such thing. They do happen. Okay.
Okay. So Joe, have you ever used this wood grain in a mural?
All the time. All the time. I do wood grain stuff. No, I should. That's an exaggeration to say all the time. I just mean to say it's a very common need, because I'm trying to make a nice looking wall of some wood object. I'm trying to make, you know, maybe the platform of a deck. Usually it's just this level where I'm just doing the lighter, more closer to yellow color combined with the darker browner color, and I leave it at that. You know, in a mural, not much more is needed. But on this plaque where people are looking at the close-up details of it, this is where I would do this. I've been hired to go through a whole building and do like faux painting jobs, make all of the trim look like wood. And what was funny is people would come through, and at a glance they say, "Why are you stripping all the paint off of the wood?"
Thank you. Good job.
Yeah, it's a nice compliment. It's a nice compliment when people say that. I like it. Okay.
Okay. So here's another compliment. Cornelia says, "Thank you, Joe." She's the one that asked the question about getting the hair off the canvas.
Got it. Very good. That's my method. I hope that is helpful. On big murals, that helps me a lot. I just get to it right away by scooping that little bristle under it. That way. Yeah, cheap brushes that lose bristles are the worst. What an annoying. And you know, a brush can look like a great brush. It really can look like it's a fantastic tool in the store, you know? And then you get it home and start working with it, and you don't find out until later down the road, oh, this brush loses bristles. You know, because it's hard to test what kind of glue it's made with. I can do a few rings at a time. Yeah, I'm going to do a few of them like this. And here's a pattern. I'll show you some common patterns that are in this wood grain that are helpful to know. So as these stretch out like this, eventually you'll get to a point where it does this. Okay, where the grain stretches out on both sides and it doesn't close. It opens up again in some other place, like this. So we might go this way and then open up again. And then there's another ring, perhaps forming inside of this one, right here. Like that. This is a real common pattern. So I'm going to zoom out a little to make sure you can see the whole canvas. And we'll come across here, complete this one. I can push my brush both ways. You know, you can see I'm pushing against the long corner of it. Sometimes that has a nice like paint scraping, scooping effect. Okay, go like this. swipe, discard, swipe, discard, swipe, discard, like this. Now, when you do this technique, not all of it comes out exactly like you don't get your best look with every brush stroke, but that's okay. You're using a paintbrush. You just come back and detail it where you want to. So this is the reason I like to use a method like this is because if I'm not in a hurry, I can doctor it as much as I want to doctor it. I can mess with it and change it a whole bunch. If you use a wood graining tool, it's like whatever comes out on a single pass is what you have to stick with, even though those can give you a real nice look very fast. But if it goes wrong, you don't have a way to manipulate it. But this is a way you have, and you can work on your own techniques. You know, I think I'm just more about recognizing the patterns and then experimenting with ways to implement those patterns. All right, so that's it. That's how I did that whole plaque. I thought it'd be fun to show this technique, how to make it 3D, how to get the texture in there. Nothing else to see here, folks. It just kind of gets boring after this. You just keep doing this all day long, wishing you had a more exciting thing to paint.
I used to do woodworking, and I think wood grain is just fascinating.
It is. There's a kind of I feel like there's a kind of therapy I get when I just get lost in a pattern, just reproducing a pattern over and over on something. You know,
yeah.
I really like doing that. Okay, I'll do a few more here, and then we'll move on to something else. Any comments, questions out there on other subjects to paint?
No, not yet.
Okay. My wife wants a winter painting. She wants we could do another winter scene in theme with the season. We could do that. I didn't have a canvas that's the right size for our spot on the wall, but it would be fun to just kind of do the layout. This is kind of interesting. This is a wet on dry pass. And you know, that has a real nice, bold, colorful look. You don't get the washed out, neutralized colors. That's kind of a neat effect there. So if I really water down my paint here, I'm seeing that this is a good way to execute this too. I guess it all just depends on the look you want. So this has a lot more water added. So if I go up to this and I start doing those rings like this, okay, do some rings here. Let's do another one here. And then I pull it shortly after while it's still wet. Then this also leaves those pulled grainy patterns. I definitely don't feel like there's one technique to use here. You know, I on every job, I fiddle with technique because whatever technique I'm using, I'm always in the market to make it better. So I'm experimenting with a different one simultaneously. And so I would advise not to take any of my techniques too seriously. You know, always entertain the idea of improving or modifying, but it's understanding the end pattern that I'm wanting to show up on the canvas. That I think is the part that is commonly missed and causes frustration because the amount of guessing you do trying to come up with a technique that creates a mysterious pattern that you don't have an understanding of the shapes, I think is very frustrating. So
and I really like this idea of experimenting and not having set rules. I think that's very freeing. So Leanne says it would be interesting watching Joe paint a winter scene for his wife.
Yeah. All right, we'll do that. This wood graining thing came out a little less exciting than I was thinking. I was thinking, oh, this is going to be so cool. And, you know, it's just all right. Okay.
So somebody is here named, and let me murder the name here, Helendez Papier is joining us. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Nice, very nice effort. It sounded convincing the way you said it.
I think the Papier is French, so that was easier.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I feel like I'm starting to get a better feel for this as we're going. Just a light touch right here. Light touch. Nice. I think having a base coat really helps. On this one, I already had the initial layer put down, so my graining came out. It has a more natural look because I already had a base coat of the light color, where the first pass I was going on top of white color. So I think it pays off to let the first coat dry. This here, if you have a dry coat of your base color and then you do that graining, I think that next pass with the grain is more successful. I think. Okay, I'm going to put some water. This is going to be my last pass. Then we're going to move on to a winter painting. I'm going to do it, Leanne.
Okay, Joe, I got to get some more coffee. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mavis. Okay, I'm going to do some rings in here. See, I'm imagining this little ring here connecting with another, kind of like this one connects to this one. These are connecting like this, except this one goes off the board. All right, let's do another ring in here. Goes out further. Let's do another one here that goes like this, kind of comes up here. Here it stops closing the ring right there. Now it's starting to get kind of dry, so I'll pull my brush across it to get those grainy streaks. Like that. Whoa. In the nick of time, I got that one. Probably not in the nick of time. If you go slower, if your paint is kind of in that half dry state, slow can get more movement out of it. Okay, let's stop there. We got some wood grain on that board, and so I would just say that it's okay. It's not amazing technique or anything, but if you just combine this knowledge of how that grain works and the power of these two kinds of colors, the translucent color, that shift toward yellow, it can just be very slight, and it can make a real nice difference for you in whatever kind of wood graining technique you're going to use. Probably a million different ways you could do the actual graining, but I think it's really paid off for me to sometimes I just do a real impressionistic take on it. Other times I really try to slave over the details. Depends how close I anticipate people looking at my work. And sometimes an hour into you need, like, you'll land on a rhythm, maybe an hour, a half hour into the project, you'll find your own rhythm that is making good use out of your own unique set of paints, pigments. And so that's it. The pattern is the most helpful understanding, I think. All right. So, let's flip this like this, and let's start working on a winter. This is going to go away. It'll be dry in a few minutes, and I'll be able to get started right away on a winter scene here. Let's put away this palette. I'll use that to finish up that plaque that I've got later. I need those colors. So this one will go to the side, and I'm going to put another one on here. I like to use these little egg bite trays. It's the best. They peel out so easy because they're bendy. Very, very durable, bendy thing. It doesn't crack and break as quickly as maybe at all as other plastic containers. So the reusability of these has been very good. Okay, winter scene. Let's do it. Let's get some blue violet. Let's make some homemade French ultramarine blue. Man, what a fancy schmancy name for a paint color. French ultramarine. So purple and blue. is what I'm going to mix to get a good shadow color for a painting. Then I'm going to use white, and that purple blue is going to be a nice shadow color for my snow. When blue light reflects off the snow, it tends to move toward purple. If it's too blue, it'll be turquoise. It won't look as much like that faint glow of skylit shadows, but it'll look more like translucent, icy glaciers. Yeah, it has a different look. So we'll get into that as we paint this. We're going to stir those two colors together. We've got that combined with pure white for the snow. We're going to need some bright contrasting orange to go with that. So we'll do orange and yellow next to it. I'll combine those as needed, because sometimes an orange is red enough it doesn't turn green when it hits blue. Sometimes an orange turns a little green when it hits blue. You know, it depends on your pigments that you're using. And then I'll use some pure black for some dark shadows wherever that's needed. Okay, let's start piecing together our scene. We're gonna put a slope in place here. So I'm gonna make a slope going down like this, or should we go this way? Let's see.
Okay, Joe, I'm back.
Okay, good to have you back. You can see we're working on an abstract masterpiece.
Well, I got some comments to feedback to you. Mary Ostrowski says, "Hi, Joe. Looks real. That looks real." Cornelia says, "Looks amazing." Mary says, "I sent in some paintings."
Oh, okay. We're going to look at that.
And Val Thatcher says, "Love the wood grain."
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. You know, maybe it's a handy little trick for later. You know, maybe something that'll come in handy later. All right, so I'm going to put a slope. I'm just sketching out my idea. You know, there was this time when I went up to go snowboarding. Me and my wife were up snowboarding, and the trees were so encapsulated with snow you could not see a needle. The storm had come and it had blown the tops of the trees kind of sideways, and it looked like it was straight out of a Dr. Seuss book. They looked like pieces of candy or something, you know, encapsulated with ice crystal. And it was very, very inspiring. And then down the mountain, we turned around the other way. There were clouds going across. We were above the cloud. It was a fantastic view that day. It just blew my mind. So, you know, we took pictures, but now I'm going to use that as inspiration.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And Cornelia has a question. How would you do the edge of a frozen lake when you're looking directly at it in the distance? A darker blue?
Let me comprehend what Cornelia is asking there. Edge of a frozen lake when you're looking directly
at it in the distance. Like what color?
Frozen lake. So you're looking across the lake. When you say directly at it, you're saying like if there was a lake right in front of us, right? This is what you're saying. Like if we put a lake right here, and we're looking across that surface. So
I think that's the question now.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. We'll put a lake in the picture. Okay. So I'll answer that by painting it. So we're going to put a frozen lake. The way I'm going to do it, I'll tell you before I do it, is I'm going to blur the reflection. The reflection just gets obscured because ice is not as glassy smooth as water. Not as perfect. Not as perfect of a level surface. So we'll put a more distant part of the lake here. We'll put a closer part here like this. And then, you know, maybe we've got some kind of an embankment up here. Just kind of feels like there could be an embankment right there. So then in the background, let's start putting a sky in our scene. I'm going to rinse out my brush. And I'm going to start putting some white and orange over the top of that wood grain Okay, let me stand up. Get this.
So while you're doing that, Joe, is Tyler says, I have a cool picture of a train track with snow, not my pick, but holding as inspiration. I will send it your way.
Okay, cool. That sounds great. Yeah, I want to see that. Yeah, I'm going to put a little bit, maybe not an extreme amount of orange in my white, so I can get kind of an evening-ish glow late in the day. You know, get some color in here in this sky, and you know, I'm thinking about what kind of a sky I want in my picture. What should I do here? We got a little bit of color. Let's put, I want the sun to be up. So we'll make this side. This is going to be the side of the sky that's brighter. I'm thinking as I put the paint on here. When I do a sky, these days I start with just the gradient moving, getting brighter and yellower as I move toward where the sun might be. And most of the time, the sun is not in the picture. I'm just doing a brighter portion of sky, and that's kind of a fun way to do it because it allows me to not be, I don't have to be committed to an exact light direction. It's just a gradient saying it's somewhere off that direction. Okay, so as I move away from that direction, I'm going to start putting my blue in here. So this will be the bluer side of the sky, and we'll keep it light. Let's just piece this in here like that. Yep, we're high enough. We're painting off camera there, so I'll keep it down here. Here's my orange. You can mix that with the white. You can see this orange. Not all oranges are like this. This one has kind of a purplish effect. Also, I put purple in that blue, so I preconditioned my blue to not turn as green. It's a good move when you're trying to do a picture where the blues represent shadows against a light. You know, it depends on what you're painting, but if you just pre-tint that blue, have enough purple in it, rather than trying to do it as you make progress on your painting, trying to do it in real time, correcting the colors like I'm doing right now is possible, but not as simple as just having it preconditioned. Okay, there we go. We get brighter as we go that way. That just says the sunlight is somewhere off to the left there. And we've got a great, I'm looking at the exposure on the camera, making sure that we've got something that works there. Okay, here we go. There's my sky. Let's put a cloud in there. Cloud would be fun, wouldn't it? Let's put like a very wintry cloud. They tend not to be those perfect cumulus shapes in the cold winter.
I think clouds are always fun.
Yeah, they are. I love clouds. I mean, I don't have to tell anybody here, you know, that I like painting clouds. Okay, I'm gonna put a cloud. Let's put a cloud. This is a mountain. Well, are we up high? We got a lake. So I was thinking if we were at the top of a mountain, I might put a cloud kind of hidden behind it. But if we're down at a lake, maybe I change my mind. Let's put a bright cloud, something other than a level line across my picture, pure white. And then I'm going to use my orange and yellow here. I'm pretty much just going to do the opposite gradient I did on the sky. So gets yellower, not yellow, but yellower as it moves toward the white. This is my glowing side of the cloud. Okay, then it gets more purple as it moves toward the dark side of the cloud.
Okay, so Tyler says happy clouds, and Roundbrush Street Steve says clouds that grow larger over larger bodies of water are great.
Oh, yeah, right. I didn't think of that. You do. A lake does have an effect on clouds, doesn't it? All right. That's good to think about. Okay. So let's put a little bit of light. You know, it's kind of coming from, but it's what I'm doing is backlighting this cloud. Lighter around the edges backlights it, but it's not so extreme, not so distinct that I'm suggesting there's a sun directly behind this cloud. It just means that somewhere the sun is on that side of the sky by just illuminating the edges more than the middle of the cloud. I got some water that dripped on there, pulled some paint off. So I'm going to let this dry. It's my layout. So I'll come back to it. I won't sweat the details just yet because I've got other stuff to paint and I can come back to it. But I think it'd be cool to put some smaller clouds in here, like just some bright little wispies. That's too much yellow. Whenever I put too much of a color on, it's easier to add the colors you do want than to try to remove the color you don't want. Okay, now smaller clouds, if I want them to look like more distant clouds, I'll do the same gradient and shrink it all down. If I want them to look like actual smaller fluffy clouds, I hope that's making sense what I'm saying. Smaller versus just further away. Yeah. Just further away, I shrink all the gradients. The edges get smaller, everything gets smaller, but all the gradients still there. But if it's a smaller sized cloud, it doesn't block as much light. So you can control if a cloud looks small and fluffy versus far away with those elements. So if I just barely put a little shadow in here, then it becomes a smaller cloud.
So Roundbrush Steve has a comment. I live on a large estuary, so I notice how the clouds above water are more dramatic, can see out to the sea too.
That's cool. Sea to the sea. All right, that's neat. That's good insight. So you have some good experience observing those. Nice. Oh yeah, and Steve has shown some pretty cool work of some like oceany, cloudy scenes too. I'm just now remembering that. Okay, so that's how I can make it look like a further. If I put the whole gradient in there like this one, the edges are real skinny. It ends up being a farther away cloud. I know that my painting is altogether very light at the moment, so it's not like super easy to see those things, but that is because I want some real good contrast showing. So let me fill in this sky. We're going to do some wintry looking trees here next. There's some orange, here's some yellow. Let's just fill that in. We'll keep it a little bit darker than the edges of those clouds so that I can actually see them. Let's get a tiny bit of blue here. There we go. I darkened the sky, but look how it makes that cloud glow. Darkening the sky, that's a good thing to keep in mind at the beginning of a project is how dark do you need to make your, I consider it setting the stage. How dark do you need to set the stage to get all of the lighting that you're after in the picture? Good thing to think about ahead of time because it's a hard thing to change later in the painting when you've got a lot of colors decided. Okay, there's a wintry looking sky. And now I'm going to do some trees that are going to be like those trees I saw that one time. Let's put some of this blue. I think this blue needs a little more purple. I'm going to just put some purple next to my blue here so that I don't need as much. It's kind of a big batch and I'll waste a bunch of paint trying to change the color of that whole batch. Okay, blue. I'm going to put a little more purple. And this blue will have a nice color to it when it lightens with white. Okay, these are just going to be some trees that are encapsulated with snow. They're bending over a little bit because the wind was blowing while the ice froze around them. Kind of like I've seen that happen with icicles too. They kind of bend a certain direction. You know what? Let's do a large one. I think a larger one would be fun. Let's put a tree up in the foreground there. So I just start with the blue, and then I'm going to use white. Let me dab this a little more to get some of that excess paint off there. The right amount of paint I find to be a key component of getting the technique you're after. You know, technique with a brush, I think usually relies on understanding the necessary amount of paint to get on the canvas. There we go. All right, we've got a shadow color. I'll zoom in a little bit so it's easy to see.
So Leanne has a comment. She says, yes, it's so tempting to make everything bright when you are trying to make something light and glowing. You need the contrast or it just becomes painting a polar bear in a snowstorm.
Yes, exactly. Good comparison. Okay, now I'm just putting white patches, and what this ends up being is a light blue, but what I want is for this to be shadowed snow. So it's a very bold color. Straight purple and blue is going to be it's a real bold decision on colorfulness. But I don't have any other blue that I need to show up in my picture. So it's okay to go bold with this because it's not going to be sabotaging any other blue that needs to show up nice and bright. Okay, I'm just putting a bunch of lighter patches and trying to turn them into gradients as much as I'm able, you know, without slaving over it too much. So as a patch of snow comes out off the tree, I want it to get lighter, lighter, lighter. Maybe up here there's more light available so we don't have the real dark color. So I'll kind of bring the white out off of the tree, but it's all going to get mixed with blue.
So Joe, do you have a time of day in mind for I'm thinking of the lighting and shadows?
Yeah, after I got going with that sky, I was thinking that this could be like a 5 o'clock, a golden hour kind of a picture. The sun is low, but it's not down, starting to set. But we can exaggerate it. I can make very sunset-like colors without putting the sun all the way down because it's a painting, and we can just combine the things that we think are pretty. Yeah. But that's my initial thought, is that I'm going for late in the day, but still having some sun up in the sky illuminating the clouds from behind. Okay, so I just have gradients coming out of the blue to get snow. So the use of this blue violet is a real key component of this. I'm gonna put more of it in here. Here's blue, here's some purple. It's a very violet kind of blue. Let's put the base down. Let's put some white and just let that way. That's a more distant tree, so we can be messier with this one. It's a light touch with my brush to get small shapes. Right, and then I'm just going to let that blend so that it's not white anymore. There we go. Let's do a few more in here. Let's get some white on this one. I tend to be a little too careful too early in a picture. I don't know if anybody else feels like they deal with that same tendency, but it can really stand in the way of progress when you find yourself prematurely tackling details. Just because you can doesn't always mean you should. Okay,
right. So I get a question from Roundborough Steve. What percentage of your own work are you happy with, Joe?
Well, it's in the 90s. I'm very happy with most of my work. There are murals that are permanent that I can't go back and modify, and those are the ones that give me the most cursed feeling. I'm like, I hate that thing, because I hate that it represents me in a light that I don't want to be represented in any longer. Because it's public, it's out there, I can't go back and change it. And if I could, I would. But my paintings my paintings that I have in storage, they all kind of fond memories of an experiment. You know, they're not end products. They're just representation of what I was working on in that moment. And for me, that's the part that has more value. I like the process of learning, discovering, trying. So all of my pieces are an experiment, not an end product intended to look great. And with that mindset, I can appreciate all of the things that are executed nicely and the things that look like they had trouble. I can appreciate all those.
So Round Brush Steve has a suggestion for the murals you're not satisfied with. You could go write someone else's name on those.
That's a good suggestion. Why change the whole mural when you can just change the name? I like that. Is a really good idea.
Of course, Flagstaff's kind of a small town. I don't know if that would work.
Small town. Yeah, that's great. That is a great idea. Yeah, because an artist would come by and be like, Joe, why is my name on that mural? Why am I getting emails about this mural asking me to paint other versions of it? Okay, I'm gonna put some so this is where I'm determining what I'm getting more committed to the light direction here. We're gonna put some shadows coming down here. We'll kind of space them out, coming down this slope. This is downhill, so they're going to get stretched further than they normally would. Right.
So Leanne says, I'll take your sloppy seconds, Joe. Go ahead and write my name on them.
Yeah, right. Leanne's name. We have a volunteer. Nice.
And Round Brush Steve says, well, put Ben's name on those.
Yeah, right. My brother Ben has some really cool looking art hanging on the walls of at our parents' house. That'd be fun to show that off. You know, he is truly an artist, truly a skilled artist. He did not go the direction of painting, but I feel like any of my family could have gone that direction. I was just the one that had the attention span for it, you know. I had this long attention span for that kind of work. And so I just worked on that particular skill set. Okay, I'm making some more distant trees now. We're just going to fill in like a tree line that's further away. And you notice that the sky is starting to look like it's glowing a little better now that we have the comparison of what's in the front and dark. And I think that the blue suggests something very important. It suggests that there is light on instead of it being what am I trying to say? It feels like there's the dull glow of light hitting this so that this still feels like a white object. You know, it doesn't feel as much like a white object if we get like browner shades of blue when you get other colors in there. So this is how you can make a very dark color look like a white object is it's in a darker light. Okay, so now I'm going to put some. Go ahead.
So Round Brush Steve says that blue with the golden light is truly magical. Don't change that too much.
Thank you.
And Leanne says it is beautiful. I do love that sky with the blue snow.
Thank you. One of my favorite combinations is this exact thing right here, combining those that a blue, what I'd call a cool gradient with a warm gradient. I love the overlap of the two things. This is a warm gradient, you know, just meaning it has the red and yellow and orange in it. Cool gradient, it has the blue. When I see a gradient like this on top of, it's eye candy, you know. So I'm right there with you. I love this kind of a theme because it's got Got a nice vibe to it, doesn't it? So I'm doing some light, some sunlight hitting, but it's not super bright sunlight. We've got like a, you know, got like a late in the day look. I'll make this the shadow of this tree. It kind of lines up with it. So I'm going to fill this in with my lighter color, but it's not super bright. I'm keeping it on the dark side because I want it to look like that sky is the light source. So as long as I've got this pattern, I just used, for this color, I just added orange and white to the existing blue to get this to illuminate. So down here, I just took this orange, which is kind of a reddish orange, and I just added it. And I get this gray purple, and that is a real important color in this pattern, that gray purple. It's where we, you know, you want that shift that moves more toward purple as it gets darker, you know, moves away from the yellow as it gets darker. So as I'm getting lighter, it's going to go from a more purple color to a more red color to a more orange color. For example, if we start putting brighter color in here, let's go more orange right here.
So Tyler says, do I see purple? Wink, wink.
Yeah, it's purple. That's the reverb of color. Purple. Okay.
So did you put the orange in there as a reflection of the setting sun?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all based on the light source for sure. And so there's just a color pattern where we want, as a shadow darkens, we want it to be moving away from yellow. As it brightens, we want it to be moving toward yellow. So if I've got these real blue colors, well, where that shadow has dim blue light on it, when the bright gold light combines with that on the edge of shadows, then we're going to have a purple result. So if you don't have that result, then the picture can look unnatural. So this is the way we get natural looking light and shadow on a snow scene. And I would even say that in this case, I shifted. So paying attention to how much color change you implement compared to how much brightness change is an important balance. I might have to say that a couple of times because I think I do a bad job fumbling my words. But when I change to something much brighter, then I change a lot of color as well. But if it's not a lot brighter, I don't want to do a lot of color change. So here, I think I went too far with orange. See how this looks very orange? I didn't change it to be a whole lot brighter, but I did a lot of color change. So that's what I would call out of balance. So there, instead of change the color, I'm just going to make it brighter because I want to see some nice contrast in this picture. So let's make the lighter orange color, like this, kind of a pinkish color. Maybe a little yellow would look good in here. Let's put a little touch of yellow. Okay. So if we're going to go that orange, we need to go brighter. If we didn't go that orange, then we could do a dark. Like, you don't need the brightness, you don't need the color, you need them to balance with each other.
So Roundbrush Steve says you definitely took too much blue away. There was a calmness with the level of blue.
Yeah, all right. That's it. Yeah, right. A soft light can be a real beautiful thing, right? So this is one of those situations where trial and error is valuable. You know, find the balance that you like best. But knowing what the dials are that you're turning, how much do you change the color compared to how much do you change the brightness? So we could darken this, but if I darken it, okay, so let's go back here. Let's put an embankment that's a little darker here. Let's add blue to my existing color. So if I darken this, let's go a little teensy bit more orange. Like that, okay? We're gonna get some light. Okay, now this one, I'm darkening again, but this time I'm keeping it bluer than what it was the first time. So we can change this color. So the point that I'm making is there's not a correct amount of brightness or a correct amount of color change, but they need to change relative to each other. When you change a lot of brightness, you change a lot of color. If you change a little bit of brightness, you only change a little color. So I see that being a repeating point of frustration for a lot of questions come to my email on that.
Well, I have a question. So, I don't quite get what you mean by that. So
if I make a glowing thing, I'll use a different part of the picture to demonstrate. So if I go up here and okay, so we're getting brighter on our sky, and I need to do some color change. So as I brighten this, I'm moving toward orange. So it's doing two things. This is moving toward yellow, changing color. It's also getting lighter. But if I take this brightness and I move it too far to yellow, so let's intentionally do too much color shift related to the amount of brightness. And too much is not textbook definition. It's, judgment. It's your judgment. You decide how much is too much. But I'm going to do it on purpose to demonstrate the point. Okay, so we won't make it so far off. We'll just make it a little bit off. So I'm going to make a color that is real similar to this one, but yellower. It's going to be a yellower color. So we're going to darken it more. I need some purple in there, like this. And so if we're at this, so notice as I'm getting darker with this yellow is feeling more and more out of place. As that dries, this color doesn't have the natural glow effect that I'm after, because I need to be in the more violets, like the gray violet. And I can make this more gray. It's not because it's too colorful. I could make it gray. The problem is that I did this dramatic hue shift from the blue to the yellow before I did a lot of brightness change. So let's make it more gray to illustrate it further. We're going to put some black and white in here just to make it more gray. Let's go like this. There's my color. Let's lighten it a little bit more. We're making what I'm doing is I'm making the color less relevant is what I'm doing. We'll make it not green. We don't want green. Okay, so it's barely a different color. So when you get colors that look muddy, you're looking at a painting and you're like, why do my colors look muddy? They don't have the nice glow. It's because these two things got out of balance. The shift of color change is not matching the shift of brightness change. All right, I'll leave that to dry, and we'll look at it and pick it apart. After that, I'm going to lighten it a little bit too, because it's, I don't want to intentionally make everything way off to say, see there, it looks bad. Well, it's easy to make something look bad. I want to actually demonstrate the point. We're just making the color shift too far too early. That's all. Okay, so now I'm going to do icy water. So here we're looking out toward this embankment. And instead of the usual glassy lake scene, we're going to really make the surface blurry. So it doesn't mean tons of ripples. It means that there's a roughness on this that is a much tinier scale than ripples. Let's see, if we had a hill on it, I'm going to do some estimations on where I think this reflection might fall. So we're going to make the reflection of these trees, but I'm not going to make them so clear. They're just not going to be so clear. They're going to be obscured. Now, where this is different than, reflections get blurry on water too when it gets real rippled. But they tend to, like, if it's just water and it's still as glassy, then ripples will pull the reflection down, 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 down in one direction or something. But ice is rough and it's got shapes in all directions compared to the surface of water. So you're barely going to see, I'll take the reflection and blur it in all directions. So I'll start out by deciding where my reflection should be. Let's do my upside down scene right here. We got a tree here. We got a tree here. See, and it's starting to look like a reflection. But now let's pull it sideways. And let's pull it down as well. Okay, then let's put some light colors in here, like this. And we're not trying to orient the distortion of this reflection any particular direction. It's just, well, I am going to use horizontal strokes because this surface is in perspective, so it squishes my shapes very flat. But what I mean is the reflection will distort in all directions. It can distort in all directions, where we just have kind of a fog of a reflection on there. I do want some bright colors, so let's go here and put orange and white. I still got blue in my brush, so that's going to make kind of my grayish violet color. So see, these, instead of sharp edges, these become gradients. They get darker as I move toward. And this is roughness versus smoothness in a nutshell. This is the way you can understand what makes a surface cast the colors that it does. The colors that you see on it. It's always some reflection of the environment, and roughness or smoothness will determine how much, like, let's say that this was not water, it was just paint. It was painted concrete. It still will be reflecting, but it so blurs the reflection that it blurs it so far that every color is blurring into every other color, but it still is the blurred reflection. So this is
Cornelia said, great tip. So Cornelia, if you want to put which tip it was that you found really helpful and put that in the chat, I'll let Joe know which one that is.
Yeah, good call. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to put white, and we're going to put yellow, we're going to put orange. I'm getting my bright sky in here now. So let's take this. I got real bright colors over here. So down here, I feel like I want to see those. Let me get the camera. So I want this reflection to look more glassy. More glassy, not totally glassy because we're doing ice. So that is just going to be a matter of getting the colors in here. There, see that green? It's in here. This is what I don't want. See that kind of greenish where the yellow hit the blue? That's where we just real quick take orange, purple, anything to turn it more purple. Whether it's orange or just a purple, just put that wherever we have too much green. And that will fix that problem and keep the light looking like light and not like paint. There. See, so all we're doing is really obscuring this reflection so that we have a icy surface instead of, and then the rest of it is really just perception. It's putting other things in place that is power of association, really. I think is a lot of it beyond that. Okay. There we go. I'm kind of dry brushing across this, which works good for an icy surface. There, see, it kind of has a frosty look to it, doesn't it? I'm going to put my reflection of this slope in here. I'm going to change the color of that, blue. And we had orange in that mix. This orange and blue made a gray purple. And we'll darken it because it's the reflection's always a combination of what's under the surface combined with what is reflecting off of the surface. So we've got a little bit of underwater color perhaps influencing this, but not a lot. Not a lot. It's just going to darken my results. So let's bring this across here. Let's do this. There we are, but I got to stay darker than need to stay darker than this surface. Let's go a little bit more of that blue. Let me get some water on my brush. So that very watery paint right here, because all I need is a thin layer to go across here. Just a little bit of color change where it comes down on that bank. There we go. There's our icy surface. See, so you can control the level of glassiness on a surface, and ice is just rougher, more blurred reflection than something else. And so any surface is like that. If I was doing a metallic, if I was doing a rock, I'm thinking about how blurred are all the colors reflecting off of it. You know, how much do they blur together? All right, now I'm going to put some brighter light. This light's kind of coming through here. We've got a slope here that looks like it could use some bright light. So let's hit this with some of that bright afternoon, late afternoon.
So Cornelia came back and said, when she said great tip, she was referring to the sky color tip.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. Good. Glad to hear that. Okay, so I'm going to put this in here, and that's going to be my bright sun hitting some snow. I want a real bright snowbank hitting that. And while I'm at it, I think it'd be cool to put some of this on the trees. Wouldn't that be nice? Just put little bits on the back side of these trees. That's kind of tricky. Like, do I go darker than the sky or lighter than the sky? My sky is very light. So to do highlights on the trees, you know, I don't know if I want to go darker or lighter than my sky. Let's try doing some bright highlights on the left edge. We're going to try it, see if it looks good, and then change the plan if it doesn't. There, we got a bright highlight. Now I need my little gradient in there. It's got to transition to my more purple color. So here's orange. There's my reddish colored orange. And now when I go in there with these blues, if I had a smaller brush, I might be more careful with this, but we're going to just hammer it with the big brush.
Of course, I think that shows up because there's contrast between the snow on the tree and the color of the tree. Plus, as you dip below the level of the slope, it shows up more as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. It's a balancing act. This is a composition question. Like, I just want my work to be seen. You know, it's not a matter of what is real or what is going to look right. Well, we want it to look good, right? But it's a question of sometimes in photographs they can be disappointing because they hide, details can get lost. You know, as we all know, we've taken photographs and it's like, well, that's not what it looked like in person. You can lose a lot of the three-dimensional wonder that you saw when you were looking at it. And so with the painting, I can strategically try to make sure it gets seen there. So I just use that little bit of orange in between the light and the shadow to get that tree to have a nice looking highlight on it. Over here, I'm going to put this snowbank coming down. Now this one's in a shadow. Here's that blue, and I'm going to put just enough purple here that I can transition to that color there without it looking too green. Oh, yeah, it's kind of drifted up here.
So like a little time check. It's 10 till the hour.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Probably is time to be done. All right, there we got some dark. That kind of looks like it takes a turn now and goes back away from the sun. I like that look. That didn't come out too bad. Let's put some trees in the shadow there. This is just kind of a quick layout, you know. It's not a huge mountain or anything, just a very snowy slope by a lake, all drifted up.
Yeah. So did anybody else want to show Joe their painting?
Oh yeah, we're going to do that. Thanks for reminding me, Mavis. Totally forgot that we were going to look at paintings. Let's do that. Let's look at paintings. I'm going to use purple instead of orange here. You know what? That's another thing that I think went, and we saw this. You know, what's his name? I can't remember the name. He showed a snow painting he was working on, and it was the same thing, like moving to the purple, ended up moving to two brown gray of a purple from how blue it was. So when you go from like this real nice blue shadow, so here my lights, I'm realizing that my orange might have made too gray of a purple. I hear that'll look better if I use a purple instead of a gray purple from the orange. Realizing that. So it comes back to how much does the color change to how much does the light change. And so I undersaturated it. I changed, and it's essentially removing too much blue if I make that too gray. My point. Okay. Better to show it than to talk it. Remember that. So this, I've used that color there, I used an actual purple. I used my purple pigment paint right here instead of the orange. And I think this was the last thing I'm going to do to the picture. Then we're moving on. Moving to your pictures. Okay, purple. Watch. I predict this is going to look way better, because it's not removing the blue light. It's not removing too much of the blue light when I've only changed brightness a little bit, you know? Like it becomes an unfamiliar pattern if we remove too much of the blue light. Okay, we're gonna change that. Yeah, I would say this is so in here, I don't need to put it on my brightest areas, just here where I have that gray color. Yes, I'm liking that much better. Now let's put some brighter orange light up here that comes down into that. These are areas facing more directly toward the sun, perhaps. There we go. And let's put some bright light coming out from behind this. Do a little bit of that orange in between these two. Okay, I think we got a good layout.
Yeah, that's looking really good.
Simpler is better sometimes, isn't it? I think doing a good job at a simple painting is always much better outcome than doing a pretty good job at a complex painting. You know.
Right. So Leanne says, I love the sky and how it reflects so brightly off the further hill. The blue and purple shadows really balance it off.
All right. Cool.
And then
glad to hear.
Raluca Christina says, I love the perspective. I am a fan of that, but please, Joe, close the second hill to the ground.
Is that torturing you? Is that really bothering you here? Let's do it. Okay.
I think it's a teaser for next week.
Yeah, right. Here we go. Yeah, we'll put that in there. Here you go. Just kind of close all that in. There you go. Now, we filled it in. We kind of obscured the painting in the process. Yeah, let's put more purple in there. Getting that right shade. It's worth the trouble to try to fine tune that color early in the painting, you know, not slaving over the details late in the painting, but trying to fine tune that relationship between the color change that moves, because it's systematically used across a whole picture, because it shares a light source. So it'll share that gradient. So the colors you're going to use to go from your shadow into your light on a gradient, well worth the trouble trying to figure out to get a nice natural looking glow.
Okay. So Luca Christina says, great. Sorry for my poor English. I understood everything.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's perfect. Okay. You're staring at my painting, but I'm staring at my computer screen. I'm going to pull up some work here.
Okay, so Leanne finishes it off and saying, "Ooh, I like that bit of dark purple at the ridge."
All right, cool.
There is a bit left.
Did we see this one yet? I think we saw this one, but I'm showing it again. This one's really not real cool submission from Mark. I love the feeling of light in that is pretty amazing for just having black and white. Pretty fantastic. I really like the way you did that. This looks like tumbling white water coming over, nice shadow, and it looks like we got glistening like ripples down here with white water. Good distinguishing, good distinction of different pieces.
Distinguishing.
Yeah. Right. You can see the different parts of the water and the light and the shadow. Very good job with that. And I think that can be tricky to do with black and white. Here's another one from Mark. He's got this picture similar to what we're working on today. Look at that. Here's his version, and we can identify the same kind of gradients, making that look very beautiful.
I'm not seeing it on the.
Well, you're on a delay. You've got.
Okay.
I pull it up.
You know,
I got it. 5 to 10 second delay. So the same gradients, we can go through and identify any scene that uses this real pretty combo of this warm gradient and this cool gradient. You know, you can find it because it's naturally occurring. We're mimicking some natural beauty of nature. Natural beauty of nature. That's very redundant. To say. Anyway, you get the point. You can find it, and when you find it in other work, it builds your confidence using it in your work. It's fun to be familiar with those patterns. So I can see that same kind of soft lavender, and it's working very well, very nicely done. And then Mark's choice of blues are a lot more toward the turquoise blue, which is has a unique look that looks different than my picture. My picture is choosing the more purple shade. Neither one of these I would say is a better choice. I would just say they have distinctly different feeling that you can artistically choose for your picture. But that relationship of change is where the magic happens. Man, great job. Thanks for sharing this. That is a beautiful exploding sky. I love
the sky.
Man. Yeah. And then just like Steve was saying, this combo is so eye-catching. Such a cool combo. I love how this peninsula, or whatever you want to call this, goes out and is just hovering on top of that reflection. That's kind of like the most magical piece of the picture for me, right there. Okay. Very nice work. Thanks for showing off. We appreciate it. We like that. Now we're going to look at one from Mavis. We got you telling me that you can help. All right. Very good. Recent paintings from Susan. We're going to look at recent pictures. Oh, we went through these, but we're going to look at more. We just looked at that one. We saw that. Here's the next one. I showed that first one early at the beginning of the live stream. Ooh, wow. Now that has some purple. Nice work.
You showed that before. I think that's beautiful.
Let's go to the next one. Oh, we have some nice depth, some good atmosphere. She was saying she's working a lot with atmosphere, getting atmosphere and these nice gradients on these hills. That is very cool. You know, so something that comes up a lot here's something that I think can be very helpful with doing. I'm going to suggest, forgive me, Susan, for interfering with your work that you've done so well. I'm going to download your picture. I'm going to go to my app here and upload it. I just want to do a quick, sorry, hang on. Wrong window. Hang on.
Just as an FYI, Joe, I think it is a real treat for you to work on, I know for me personally, to work on my paintings in your color app program.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, I'm going to put your picture in the app. We're going to go to downloads. You can do this anytime you want. This is on colourdriver.com, and choose the sizing option that you want. So match image dimensions. We'll choose that one. And then drag the image with your mouse or with your finger to where you want it, and then hit that green set button, and it's ready to draw on after that. So all I'm going to do, just a real quick change on this. I'm going to swatch this color that you've got partway down through your gradient. And I'm going to put that, instead of matching the shape of the hill.
Okay, so there's a delay, but I still see a black screen.
You know what? I think that's my mistake. Let me see. We might have a software failure here. There's my picture there. Oh, yeah, there was just a, oh, you know what? It's my HDMI cord. Thank you for telling me that, Mavis. Let me give my HDMI cord a little jiggle. Sorry about that. That's my line to the computer.
There we go. Oh.
Thank you for telling me. It's on a delay. It's working now. Okay, thank you for telling me. Okay, so I'll try to be gentle with my computer. It's got a loose wire that was doing that. So what I did was, I'm going to hit the undo button. I swatched that color. I'm going to bring that color that's right in here, I'm going to bring it down. The reason I'm doing that is because if you do this on purpose, maybe this is something you actually want, but oftentimes by accident, you make all of your gradients match the shape of the starting shape edge, where they're not necessarily related things. If you have a hill coming out of an atmosphere, you maybe don't necessarily want the atmosphere to mirror the exact shape of your hill, right? So we can make that gradient happen along a different shape edge than the hill itself. So I want you to look at the difference, and then you decide whether it's relevant for your picture. I'm not here to tell you what should be done on your picture. Okay, I'm going to take this color, and instead of make it get darker to lighter along the shape of that slope, I'm just going to go straight up with this. Okay, so the gradient is happening kind of on a level up. It's like if we blended level brush strokes to blend it up. And for some reason, I always have a hard time finding the right way to express that thought. But I'm going to blend this. I'm using this blender tool just to show it's not the softness of the blending that's needed, just the shape of that gradient. So that gradient is no longer following the exact shape of the hill, because it's going to be level across here. So I'm just going to scribble this blender tool across here. It's pretty fun to use this blender. So you can just put colors on, drag them around like paint. Here we go. Okay. So when you do that to all of your slopes, your picture may look more 3D. It can help a picture to look more three-dimensional, as opposed to having what I call the outline effect. You know, the outline effect will make the whole picture flatten out if it's too extreme. Here, I'm speaking of the outline effect. I was getting rid of an outline there. So all I did was level out the shape of your white atmosphere, because you can accidentally follow that, and the outlines can flatten your picture. That's all I wanted to show. Just that little tip. I accidentally smeared that. All right, there you go. Nice work. Very beautiful piece. Let's go back here and look at the others. We were looking at the other pictures. Let's see. This one here. Had the wrong window. Here's another one. Beautiful work. I'm going to skim through these a little quicker. That looks really awesome, man. I love the mood of the atmosphere. Ooh, nice glow in that one. That one is really beautiful. We got the silhouette of the deer. You got that same shift toward the yellow as it gets brighter, and definitely not yellow, just toward. That's the key distinction. Beautiful work. I like that. And there's some glassy water. Look at that. Got some nice reflection on the water there. Nice. Really cool. Same color, same kind of feel in there, taking the colors of the reflection and
whose
bringing them
paintings are
down.
these?
This is Susan. Susan
Susan.
handed these in. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I like the shadows there. Animals in a snowstorm. That's cool. Making light shining through a snowstorm. Cool. We got a fox. We got some duckies. That's it. That's all of Susan's pictures she's sharing. Nice work. I love those. Okay. And then we have Mary sent some in. We're going to look at Mary's sharing some of her pieces. Let's look at these. Here, let's go back to the attached pictures. Hang on a second. Give me a minute to look at these. Oh, that one's cool. I like the trail. Nice high contrast. Looks very 3D when you get that contrast. Let me see if I can zoom a little bit. Very nice. I like that. Good use of blue. That is a really nice choice of blue. That feels good. Feels good and natural to me looking at that blue. Oh, I like that. Speaking of glassy reflections, that one is not ice. That is glassy water right there. Beautiful work there, Mary. I like that piece. Oh, nice. Couple of little cardinals on there. We used to have a lot of those. I grew up in Ohio. I used to chase these around the neighborhood trying to talk to them. You know, they had that real distinct chirp. Yeah. Now, I would go around trying to talk to the birds. Cool. Sea turtle. Nice. I like that. Fun shape. You know, sea turtles is a great exercise on shapes. You get real good work trying to capture. Shapes have such expression to them, and I love all the shapes on the shell and the scales of a turtle. Nice gradient. This looks like it's done with marker. You know, I don't know if that's marker or just a watercolor brush, but very cool. I like that. Nice gradient toward the light for your underwater colors. That was from Mary. Here's Cornea.
Yeah, what a great variety from Mary.
Oh, nice. This is cool. You added to this. You showed us this earlier, but you've made progress on it. That's cool. Ooh, nice. We've got this. This is kind of on the more abstract side. Here, let's go. Let's go back. There's a darker picture. Oh, I see. You're showing us what it does in the dark. It's got some glow on it. Nice. Look at that. Cool effects. Man, it's so fun to work with special effects paint, like glow in the dark. I see. And it's metallic. Nice. So you've got your daytime view of it and your nighttime view of that picture. Very cool special effects. Totally different picture in the dark. Totally different. Nice. Very cool. And then we've got Tyler sharing his picture. Oh, a photograph. I see. Okay, this is cool. Nice. This is right on subject. Man, that is some amazing looking snow. This is like right in line with the mood we're trying to paint. You can see all the blue shadows on there. You know, when you're looking at your computers, here's an important thing to understand. Like if you go back and forth, the question comes to mind for me, why such bold extreme blues on my painting when a photograph seems to accomplish it without using those bold colors? But what I think is important to understand is that when your eyes are white balanced to a computer screen, it's easy to miss just how blue that color is when you're white balanced to the picture. So when you're looking at a painting, I know you're looking at both of these on a computer screen, and mine does have a lot of blue in the shadows that doesn't have to be there, but it can feel counterintuitive when you're using such a primary blue for snow. But the reason it works is because when you're looking at the painting finished by itself, it no longer feels like that because you're seeing the colors in comparison to what your eyes have white balanced and adjusted. You know, it's comparisons that we care about. And so that use of that bright blue gives us the real high contrast to make the more eye-popping light source and the glow effect. Yeah, I just thought I'd point that out. This is cool. We got all that gray purple in there too. Just like I was trying to dial in. Mavis, sounded like you were going to say something. Sorry.
I was just going to make a comment because I asked Mary, excuse me, Mary, what she used to make all of her pictures, and she said an alcohol marker.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So I bet you can blend with that. I bet you could take the colors, blend them together. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. I've never even heard of them, so I don't know.
Yeah. All right. We'll have to look into that. Tyler, thanks for sharing this awesome looking photo. I wonder if this is this where you live? Was there any backstory to this? I'm curious about it. Very cool photo. Perhaps it's close to Tyler's home. All right. So there's my picture. It's a start to a winter scene. I can doctor the colors, manipulate them more, but I'm paying attention to that pattern. I think if I were trying to dial this in, get it right where I want it to be, I would go less yellow on my light. I think I've got a lot of kind of yellowish colors in there.
Okay, last comment from Mary. She says yes, as far as blending the alcohol markers.
Ah, they can blend with each other. Okay, cool. All right. Well, this was fun, everybody. Had a great time. And I appreciate you being here. We're going to do it again next week. Got the regular plan going. In February, I'll send out a newsletter for future shows. I might have to call off one or two of them. I'm going to be going out of town in February, but nothing too major, just a short temporary deal. Okay, there, I made it more orange. I wanted to adjust that. Not quite as yellow. I think that's an improvement. I like that. Any areas that have kind of yellow in that transition, I'm going to put more yellow. This is just like a white with orange in it. There we go. Okay, the process never ends, does it?
Doesn't seem to.
Nope. Thanks, everybody. This was a lot of fun. Mavis, thank you. We're on a moment's notice doing the live chat. All right. We made it. We made it through. Everybody enjoy your weekend. This was a lot of fun.
Okay.